I just got word that the RV's basement is flooding. We have no cell towers. The internet is down. The grid is down. We don't have any comms. What are we going to do? How do we get a work crew together? How do we get resources? Who do we know that needs help? What are we going to do? We're going to practice when there's not an event. So when an event happens, we'll be prepared. This morning, I'm meeting up with some other guys because we're having an emergency response communications exercise by the Bishop Storehouse in the Idaho Falls area. This is David Gilmore, known as LDS Prepper, and to watch over 600 videos that could save your life, including emergency communications like we're doing this morning, water filtration, food production, food storage, off-grid power, and more, watch my videos at ldsprepper.com. Okay, so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints takes emergency communications very, very seriously. We have a worldwide network of amateur radios on VHF, UHF, HF, which just means we can reach around the world in an emergency with no grid power, no satellites needed, just regular old-fashioned amateur radios. And twice a year we have practice events here in Idaho Falls. We'll probably have a couple hundred people involved if it's like last time. We'll receive scenarios over the radio or over other comms. In this instance, we're using cell phones to get the tasks and the resources. And so it gives us a chance to test our gear, make sure our radios are working, make sure we know how to work the radios, that we've got power supplies, antennas, everything's working. So it's a great idea. And then on a monthly basis, our congregation, or our ward, the Shelley ward, we also have an emergency radio communications exercise, and we just make sure we can communicate with each other. For example, if we're in a quarantine situation, we can't go visit each other, cell phone towers are down and comms are down, we can use just regular FRS radios, no licensing required. So anyway, I'm on the way to pick up some donuts. I made some Mexican hot chocolate. I love Mexican hot chocolate. Got some, like I mentioned, almond milk, and we're just gonna get hooked up together, the three of us, Barry, Butch, and me, and we're going to relay traffic, receive traffic, get needs and resources, and see if we can help others in this exercise. It's not a mock disaster, it's simply an exercise. Okay, mission accomplished. We've got some apple fritters, some blueberry fritters, lemon filled, cream filled is my favorite. So on the way over to Barry's. The cashier at the store said it's cheaper to get a dozen instead of a half a dozen. I said I don't eat donuts very much, so we don't eat like this. This is just kind of a fun. I'm adding some fun to an exercise. At any rate, looking forward to the event. It should be. Stay tuned. I think you'll learn some things about emergency communications, what's involved, and how to make it happen smoothly in case you have an emergency. Okay, I've made it over to Barry's place, and here we are. Say hi to everybody, Barry.
Hi, everybody.
All right, what do we have set up in here?
Well, I've got a Yaesu, my amateur radio rig set up. I'm on the Idaho Falls Storehouse channel. I just broke an antenna out of the package and put it on top of my Suburban, connected it to my radio, plugged my radio into my Jackery emergency electrical device, and hearing radio checks and different news things on the Idaho Falls Storehouse channel. So far everything seems to be working fine. I brought along a couple extra radios. I've got a GMRS radio, I've got a couple Baofangs, and I've got just a handheld GMRS radio for just short range local communication.
Alright, this is N7MSC. Chemical attack. A chemical attack took come without warning. Signs of a chemical release include people having difficulty breathing, experiencing eye irritation, losing coordination, becoming nauseated, or having a burning sensation.
So during the
in nose,
exercise,
throat,
they're
and
giving,
lungs.
reading
Also, the
off
presence of many dead insects
possible
or birds may
emergencies
indicate a
and what to
chemical
do to
agent
prepare
release.
for them.
The following are guidelines for what you should do to prepare for a chemical threat. Check your plastic kit to make sure it includes duct tape and scissors, plastic for doors, windows, and vents for the room in which you will shelter in place. To save critical time during an emergency, pre-measure and cut the plastic sheeting for each opening. Choose an internal room to shelter, preferably one without windows and on the highest level.
So if you feel like you're alone in an emergency, you don't need to be, because there's a whole community of people on the radios with resources and knowledge that you can tap into.
Close doors and windows. Turn off all ventilation, including furnaces, air conditioners, vents, and fans. Seek shelter in an internal room and take your disaster supplies kit. Seal the room with duct tape and plastic sheeting. Listen to your radio for instructions from authorities.
To find the local radio group, you can just do a search for ARRL or RACES, RACES, or the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Call anybody on any of those phone numbers and they'll get you hooked up to a network.
And update it regularly. Elder L. Tom Perry instructed, start now to create a plan if you don't already have one, or update your present plan. The instability of the world today makes it imperative that we take heed of the counsel and prepare for the future.
So that's just an example of some of the information that they're giving before the exercise starts here, roughly about a half an hour. So we're several miles away from the Bishop Storehouse repeater, and we're picking up the repeater very clearly with this little mag mount antenna we have on top of the Suburban, and we're doing some testing to see if the handheld walkie-talkies or handheld radios we're picking them up, and we're not getting anything on either of those. Getting anything, Butch? Okay.
Negative.
So these are 4-watt radios, and they work really, really well and can easily reach the repeater in Idaho Falls if you have an external antenna. The advantage of having an amateur radio license or a GMRS radio license is that you're able to add an external antenna to the radio, which otherwise would not be able to make that distance. The antenna is a key component of communications. This is KE5STF requesting radio check for the Bishop Storehouse exercise. Over.
STF, this is K7BYI Storehouse. Go ahead.
All right. Just how do you read me? Over.
Roger, roger. You are full quieting.
Very good. Thank you. I'm on a mobile Yaesu 5 watts, standing by for the exercise.
Fantastic. This is Storehouse, K7BYI.
So I was just doing a little radio check, make sure that we're reaching, and as you can see, they say full quieting, which means they hear me with no static. This is a 50-watt portable mobile radio. You can use it as a base station or as you can see in the vehicle. But we only have it set on 5 watts. So 5 watts and external antenna makes a huge difference. Of course, the quality of the components make a big difference too. I have a couple of the videos on what I consider the best portable radios, mobile radios available, and how to set up emergency communications for your area. I'll have links for those videos below.
It is estimated that over 200 emergency communicators are participating in today's exercise. Today's exercise will mimic a common need in providing emergency communication services. This is the task of identifying a resource to match a given need. It is important to understand that today's exercise will require that every emergency communicator participating in the exercise have access to the internet using a device such as a web browser. Devices such as a smartphone, tablet, or computer will work. Each operator will require their own device. If radio operators have not yet registered and logged into the exercise website, please do so now by going to idahoerc.org and follow the exercise links. I say again, to register or log into the exercise website, please visit idahoerc.org. The registration is required, and it is very quick. In a few minutes, the exercise website will assign each exercise participant with a set of unique needs and unique resources. Your task as an emergency communicator will be to use your radio to find the other operators within the resources that match each of your needs. You will also have unique resources that will match someone else's needs. As emergency communicators, you will need to both find who has the resources to match each of your needs, and you will need to provide the resources that match someone else's needs. Some have described this training exercise as being like a big treasure hunt. Although we hope that you will have fun with this exercise, please keep in mind that in a real emergency, matching needs with available resources is a serious task that requires effective communication skills. Remember that every need today has a matching resource somewhere in eastern Idaho. In an actual emergency, record keeping is very important. During this exercise, you will need to keep track of where the matching resources are for your needs and where they come from. You will also need to record the call signs for the match into the exercise application. If your match is verified by the website, you will see a green check mark appear on the website indicating that your need or resource is a match. All participants in today's exercise should have a notepad and a good pen to record everything you hear. All operators should concentrate first on filling your needs and finding the matching resources. This will require everyone to remain vigilant throughout the exercise to listen for requests that you can fill with your resources. Remember that this is an emergency communications exercise, not a radio communications exercise. This means that you can use any means of emergency communication that you have available, ranging from runners to digital radio communications. If it makes more sense to send a runner than list information on the radio, then do what makes most sense. As emergency communicators, we need to use all of our available emergency communication tools. This is K7BYI, net control for the Idaho Falls Bishop Storehouse. We now begin the exercise. For purposes of this exercise, assume that some event has occurred resulting in a blackout of power, landline telephones, and all cellular phone and internet services. The only exception is that you will use the internet only to access the exercise website. I say again, for purposes of this exercise, assume that a significant event has occurred resulting in a blackout of power, landline telephones, and all cellular and internet services. Again, there will be one other exception to this. We will allow stakes to utilize their immediate notification capability, such as GroupMe or SMS text messaging in a few minutes. The reason for this exception is that often at the beginning of emergency events, services such as the internet or SMS text messaging may be available for a time. We train to use all available communication tools that we have available to us. We will notify stake net control operators in a moment when they should send a message to stake emergency communicators. This is an exercise. Attention all ERC operators. Please change to your regional simplex frequency now. If you don't know your regional simplex frequency, please stand by and I will announce those frequencies for anyone who needs them. You may change frequencies now. This is an exercise.
So we want to go to Idaho Falls South region.
Yep. So let's see that message there. Oh, I can.
Apparently somebody else
North region is on 147.520 megahertz simplex. Idaho Falls South region, 147.540 megahertz simplex.
Now we're going to change our frequency.
147.
We're going to get off the repeater, and we already have some frequencies programmed in this radio. If this frequency isn't programmed, then this will be a good exercise for Barry to program it.
Roger, Kim, this is Butch. Please repeat. Too much static. Communication is not understandable. Kim, do you copy?
He's probably changing it.
Butch, I went ahead and upped my
Okay.
power. Can you hear me now?
Roger, you're clear.
Up with our power range in order to reach us on this frequency. It hasn't been tested yet, so we'll go ahead and stay with this. Monitor the south region for a few more minutes, and they should give us instructions, and then we'll get started with the exercise. This is an exercise, KJ7MED.
Roger that. Thank you, KJ7MEI.
So this is an example of when why we do these exercises, because some radios we can hear and others we can't. So you can't just buy communications equipment and leave it in the box and expect to use it in an emergency. You really need to break it out and use it, practice with it.
KJ7MED. KJ7MED. KI7WRU.
Relay.
Relay, go ahead.
This is KE5STF. We are not able to hear net control at all we're getting is static. Over.
Net control, can you hear KE5STF? Okay, this is KJ7MED. We may have to do some relay for a couple of the wards down here. They've had to move some of their rigs and they're just not reaching out. KJ7MED. South region, Ammon. Yeah, as long as these stations can reach their stake net, that's all they really need to do. Over. This is an exercise. Copy that.
Okay, so it sounds like they're just having the stake check in to the south region.
Right.
And then we would be checking in with the stake. So what we did is, Barry, we just moved, 50 feet, 30 feet? And that cleared up our reception. Again, we're using a mag mount antenna on top of the vehicle. So your location may make a big difference too. We're actually parked almost immediately underneath power lines right now, but those don't seem to be making a difference. It seems like when we moved away from the house or from behind the trees, that made a difference. We have a clearer line of sight. So keep these things in mind.
I've got you down there, and we have you on your stake frequency is 146.
If things aren't working as planned,
All right, everyone, get
you need to be able to adjust.
stakes set up correct.
Go to an alternate frequency, so we're all doing an alternate frequency of 145.600 megahertz for today.
And this is what's called being on your toes. So we have a primary frequency for our stake, but that's being used by another stake. And so our stake communications leader is set up an alternate frequency. It gets a little hectic here, as in any emergency, and this is why we practice. All right, so now we've established communications. We're going to our
4561.
You need to go 145.6. So just, yeah. So you've got your settings set in your radio, so it goes up in increments of 20 instead of 10. See that? So you need to change your settings in your radio.
I do not know how to do that.
Say that louder?
I don't know how to do that.
That's why we have these
That's the reason
exercises.
we have these exercises.
Okay, well, grab your manual. It should be here in the truck, right? Or while you're doing that, we can. Do you have an adapter to go from the both ends to your external antenna, so Butch can be on that frequency?
Do I have what?
An adapter, so we can take this antenna off and hook it into Butch's radio. Okay, so what's happened is that we need to program this radio so that we can get the right frequency. And so what we're doing is that we're connecting Butch's handheld antenna to the external antenna we have on the vehicle, so that we still have comms. So it's a matter of getting an external antenna, because we've tried connecting, listening to net control here in the car, can't do it. So we've been using a relay. So this should give us enough connection with the external antenna to be able to reach the net control. Let's go ahead and give that a try.
KJ7MED. Those that are monitoring this frequency, we're going to stay with this unless we get interference from another state that's in the north region or somewhere like that. KJ7MED, stand by.
Okay, so we were able to connect clearly with him. Did he hear that you were on the radio?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So having the external antenna with the handheld works great. Even though it's 4 watts, it was just the needed antenna with the gain on it. Okay, so we got the manual out and trying to set up the radio so we can turn it to the right frequency.
Okay, I don't know what I did, but I'm there now. I turned the radio off and turned it back on again. Well, I don't even know. I'm not sure what I did in the confusion here.
But it worked.
But it worked. I'm at 145,600. Is that where we need to be?
That's Roger, Roger.
Okay. G7 MED. This is KG7 SMX. Have we missed anything?
This is KJ7 MED. We are currently waiting for the signal to go.
Thank you, MED. We'll await your instructions. We're on 145.600.
Thank you, KG7 SMX. This is KJ7 MED. This is an exercise.
The actual exercise consisted of the website which they created, which I'll have a link down below, which was amazing. What they did is they passed along needs from that website. So let me just kind of walk you through that. First of all, I registered. You can see that I registered here with my call sign. And then I would select that I'm ready to accept some needs. Once I selected that, then it changed to waiting for assigned needs. And then once they saw that I was waiting for assigned needs, they sent me a need. In this particular case, I needed a hydraulic vehicle rescue systems pump manual. And so somebody out there throughout the whole 200 different participants has that manual, and they would find that need showing up on the app, and then they would say that they had the need, and then that need would be filled. Then you can see here I received another need for some white rubber boots size 8 with a zipper on it, and then I needed a case of 20. So in this particular case, I'm probably at a relief center somewhere, and we need some boots. So they use the software to pass the messages along. I also have several resources that they sent me. So I have rubber bands and black pens and so forth, as you can see here on the list. And then I was listening for and looking for people who had those needs, that I could fulfill those needs with what I had. And then you can see here that a need of mine was filled by somebody else. And so that was removed from my needs list off the software. The software would run on a tablet, smartphone, computer, whatever. I had 2 needs fulfilled. In other words, I had 2 needs. People found that I had those needs. They had the resources, sent the needs to me. And then I was also helped 4 people who had needs from the resources that I had. Now, not all the needs came over the app or the website. Some needs came over the radio. And as you can see here, I did my best to write down what the needs were, but very difficult to do. Would have been much easier if this was in a digital format, if I had, for example, digital capabilities with my radio. So excellent exercise, lots of messaging being passed and forth, having needs and helping people who have needs get those fulfilled with what I have. Well, that was pretty intense. The exercise is over. I wasn't able to capture the full experience because we were, so involved in it. But wow, my takeaway from that is if you can have digital communications with the radio, that is the way to go. because there's so much information that needs to be passed back and forth as far as we have these needs. We literally had thousands of households in this exercise potentially that had needs. So here in this exercise, we transmitted our needs, but we found that the needs weren't being able to be filled in that ward or that congregation. So those needs need to be passed forward to a larger area, to the south region, and then to the bishop's storehouse. And then people around the area would have the resources, but we weren't getting the needs in passed forward. So I ended up with several resources left over that I had that people needed, but I never got the call for the need. Anyway, digital communications would be make it much simpler, because then I could have all the needs listed on my screen. I brought a half dozen donuts for the three of us, but we all only had one donut and some Mexican hot chocolate, which I love. But good exercise, good experience. If you want to run something like this for your congregation, your neighborhood, your church, I'll leave the contact information below for the people who developed this exercise if you want to see if that you could use something like that. I'm going to be doing it on a ward level. What I will be doing, because every once a month on the first Tuesday of the month, we have a ward or congregation emergency radio NEP check-in. So for the next month, what I'm going to be doing is the Sunday before, I will be handing out slips of paper to people at church, and one will have a need, another will have a resource. And so when we get on our radio check, we'll be doing something like this exercise, but just on a congregation or ward level. In our ward, we have 3 different zones, and so people from zone 1 would call their needs in, and they try to resolve those resources in their zone. If not, then we'd go to the whole ward level. I have a detailed video on that breakout, and actually the entire document available to you. I will link down below this video that lays out our entire emergency communications plan, and feel free to use that and share that. So grateful I participated in this. I'm very grateful for the Idaho Falls Bishop Storehouse of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for having these exercises that make it very practical for us to get real experience and find out where our shortcomings are and what we need to do to improve our communications. A thought I had after this exercise was there could be people in a real emergency who have real needs, but they haven't thought that it's their responsibility to have a radio. And so even though they have a need, they have no way of getting that need out, where there may be plenty of resources to help them with that. So you have to ask yourself, whose responsibility is it for you to have communications? And obviously the answer is you. There may be a network out there with plenty of resources to help you with your need, but if you don't have the ability to get your need out there so people can help you, that's kind of on you. And so this whole structure could be built around you, and if you're not participating, then you're just, hurting yourself. So I would encourage you to get a radio, find a network, get involved, get trained, get proficient with it. And so when a real need happens, you can say, hey, I have a need, or I have a resource, and be part of the solution instead of the problem. The reason why radios are so powerful is I can pick up a radio and I can talk to 10, 20, 30 people, and they get one broadcast from me, one message from me, and all those 10, 20, 30 people have the same message. Without the radio, those 10, 15, 20, 30 houses have to be visited individually, which could take hours to coordinate and then get the message out to them, then get their needs back to me, get the resources back and forth. It's just a huge consumption of resources that doesn't have to happen. It makes things much easier to accomplish, much faster, much more efficient. This is LDS Prepper reminding you, if you are prepared with emergency communications and practice, you shall not fear.